Have you ever wondered what the world was like at the very beginning? I mean, way before anything you know existed. Before video games, before homework, before even your grandparents were born. It's kind of a mind-boggling thing to think about, right? Imagine a time when everything was brand new, fresh out of the box. The Earth was like a giant empty stage waiting for the main characters to show up. There were no cities, no roads, and definitely no Wi-Fi signals. It was just a big, quiet, and beautiful planet spinning in space, getting ready for an incredible story to begin. A story that would change everything, forever. This story I'm about to tell you is probably one of the oldest stories ever told. It's a classic. It's about the very first two people who ever lived. A guy named Adam and a girl named Eve. Their story is packed with amazing things, like a magical garden, talking animals, and one super important rule. You know how stories sometimes have that one big rule you're not supposed to break, but you just know someone is going to? Well, this story has one of those, and it's a really big deal. So get ready, because we're about to dive into a tale that's more epic than any superhero movie you've ever seen. Before we meet our main characters, let's picture the scene. The world was a masterpiece, freshly painted by God. The sky was a perfect, brilliant blue. The grass was the greenest green you could ever imagine. The mountains were tall and majestic, and the oceans were full of sparkling, clean water. Everything was just perfect. It was a world without a single problem, not one single worry. It was a place designed for happiness, a place where everything was in harmony. It was waiting for someone to enjoy it all, to run through the fields and explore all its wonders. So this is where our adventure starts. In this perfect, untouched world, a world that was about to get its first human residents. This isn't just a story about two people, it's the story of how humanity itself got started. It's about big choices and even bigger consequences. Think of it like the first episode of the longest-running TV show ever, and you're about to find out how it all began. Are you ready to meet the first man and see the incredible place he got to call home? Because things are about to get really interesting. Let's turn back the clock to day one of the human story. Okay, so let's set the stage properly. God had just finished creating the entire universe. You know, the sun, the moon, the stars, and our awesome planet, Earth. He spent days making sure everything was just right. He separated the light from the darkness, created the land and the sea, and filled the world with plants and animals of all shapes and sizes. From the tiniest ladybug to the biggest whale, every creature was part of this grand design. It was like the most incredible art project ever, and the final piece was about to be added. The world was a beautiful, vibrant, and living place, but it was missing something. It was missing a person to take care of it all. Imagine being the director of a huge play. You've built the most amazing set, you have the lights just right, and the music is perfect. But the stage is empty. You're waiting for your star actor to walk out and bring the whole thing to life. That's kind of what it was like. God had created this paradise, a place so wonderful that it would be called the Garden of Eden. So, the world is all set up and ready to go. It's perfect, but it's also super empty of people. That's when God decided it was time for the main event. He did something amazing. He scooped up a handful of dust from the ground, just regular, ordinary dirt. Then he shaped it carefully like a sculptor working with clay. A head, a body, 2 arms, 2 legs. He made it look just right. But it was still just a lifeless statue made of dust. It wasn't a person yet. It was missing the spark of life, the thing that makes you, you. Then came the really magical part. God leaned in close and breathed into the statue's nostrils. It was a gentle, life-giving breath. And just like that, poof, the dust statue came to life. Its eyes blinked open for the very first time. It took its first breath. It was a living, breathing person. The very first person ever. God named him Adam. Can you imagine what that must have felt like? One minute you're nothing, and the next you're alive, looking around at a brand new world made just for you. He opened his eyes and saw the bright blue sky. He probably wiggled his toes in the soft green grass. Everything was a new sensation. The sweet smell of flowers in the air. It was all a giant, amazing mystery waiting to be explored. He was like a baby, but a full-grown one, with a whole planet as his playground. God had an even better place for him to live. This place was called the Garden of Eden. And let me tell you, it was paradise. Trees heavy with delicious fruits, apples, bananas, mangoes, exotic fruits, flowers every color, fragrant. He also had a very important task, naming all the animals. I'll call you Giraffe. You look like a lion. But as Adam explored the garden and named all the animals, he started to notice something. Every animal had a friend. But Adam, he was all alone. And for the first time, in this perfect world, Adam felt a little bit lonely. So, Adam had this amazing life in the Garden of Eden, but, he was feeling a little bit like the last kid picked for a team. It's no fun discovering a super cool waterfall if you can't turn to someone and say, "Whoa, look at that." God saw this. He looked at Adam and said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper who is just right for him." God decided to do something even more special this time. He caused Adam to fall into a very deep sleep. While Adam was snoozing away, God took one of Adam's ribs. It sounds a little weird, I know, but trust me, it was all part of the master plan. Then, from that single rib, God formed another person. Not from dust this time, but from a part of Adam himself. When God was finished, standing there was the very first woman. She was strong and beautiful. She was full of life, just like Adam. God gently woke Adam up, and then suddenly seeing her, his jaw probably dropped to the floor. For the first time, he was looking at someone who was like him. He was so happy and excited that he said, "At last, this is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man." With Eve by his side, life in the Garden of Eden became a non-stop adventure. Every day was a new and exciting journey. Maybe they'd race each other to the sparkling river for a morning swim. Or perhaps they would have a contest to see who could find the juiciest, most delicious fruit for breakfast. Adam would show Eve all the cool spots he had discovered. And Eve would point out things Adam hadn't noticed before. They were a team, discovering the wonders of their home together. In the cool of the evening, God would come to walk in the garden. This was the best part of their day. Adam and Eve would walk with God, talking with him like you would talk with a parent or a best friend. They had never felt sad, angry, or scared. They didn't know what it meant to be embarrassed or ashamed. In fact, they didn't even wear clothes and didn't think twice about it. It seemed like these happy, carefree days would last forever. But there was one little rule in the garden, one single instruction that would soon put this perfect happiness to the ultimate test. Now, even in a perfect paradise like the Garden of Eden, there was one very important rule. In the very middle of the garden stood two special ones. God had been very clear. He pointed to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and said, "You can eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from this tree, for on the day you eat from it, you will surely die." For a long time, Adam and Eve were totally fine with this rule. I mean, why would they even bother with that one tree, when there were thousands of other delicious options all around them? One day, as Eve was walking through the garden alone, she came near the forbidden tree. Suddenly, a new voice spoke to her. This voice was smooth, quiet, a little bit tricky. It came from a serpent, coiled around a branch of the forbidden tree.
The serpent slithered closer to Eve and spoke. "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" He hissed softly.
"No, that's not what he said," Eve replied. "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, 'You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.'"
But the serpent was just getting started. He wasn't going to give up that easily. He saw his opening. The serpent prepared his biggest lie yet. He leaned in closer, his voice a low, persuasive whisper, ready to completely flip the script and make disobedience sound like the smartest thing she could possibly do. "You will not surely die," the serpent hissed. "In fact, God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." This was the ultimate trick. The serpent's words had changed her perspective. Before it was just the off-limits tree. Now she really looked at the fruit. She saw that it was beautiful, and that it would make her wise. The temptation was growing stronger and stronger. The desire to have what was forbidden started to outweigh her desire to obey God's simple rule. After a moment of hesitation, Eve made her choice. She reached out her hand, plucked the shiny fruit from the branch and took a big bite. In that instant, nothing dramatic seemed to happen. The serpent probably slithered away with a smirk on his face, his mission accomplished. But she wasn't done. She then found Adam. She held out the half-eaten fruit to him. She told him what the serpent had said, about how it would make them wise, like God. Adam looked at Eve. He had a choice to make too. After a moment, Adam made his decision. He took the fruit from her and took a bite himself. The moment Adam took that bite of fruit, everything changed. It was something much stranger and much sadder. For the first time ever, they felt a brand new emotion bubbling up inside them: shame. Their eyes were opened, but what they saw wasn't what they expected. They looked at each other, and for the very first time they realized they were naked. Their first instinct: cover up. They started frantically sewing them together, making clumsy makeshift clothes. This feeling of shame was quickly followed by another new one: fear. The shadows of the trees became dark, spooky shapes. Their perfect, carefree world had been shattered. Joy and innocence vanished. They had broken the one rule, and now they understood a terrible mistake had been made. As the sun began to set, the air in the garden started to cool down. Usually, this was Adam and Eve's favorite time of day. When they heard the familiar sound of God approaching, their hearts didn't fill with joy. Instead, their hearts started pounding with fear. They were terrified for God to see them. Their immediate reaction was to run and hide. They scrambled behind the biggest, bushiest clump of trees they could find.
Adam, where are you?
I heard you in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid.
The beautiful, open friendship that Adam and Eve had with God was broken, and it was all because of that one bad choice.
Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?
The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit, and I ate it.
The serpent deceived me and I ate.
Nobody took responsibility. The world's first blame game. Adam blamed Eve. Eve blamed the serpent. This was heartbreaking. Honesty and trust were gone. They had broken God's one rule. They had broken trust with each other. The mistake was made. Excuses were given. Now it was time for consequences. The life they knew in Eden was over. So what's the big deal with this story anyway? It shows us that from the very beginning, humans have had the freedom to choose. Have you ever been told not to eat cookies before dinner, but you sneak one anyway? Or you know you should be doing your homework, but the temptation to watch another video is just too strong? Their story teaches us that our choices have consequences. Sometimes they're small, and sometimes they're huge, and they don't just affect us, but the people around us too. Even though Adam and Eve made a huge mistake, God didn't just say, "Game over." Yes, there were serious consequences. They had to leave the beautiful Garden of Eden. But even in the middle of this sad conversation, God gave them a little glimmer of hope. He promised that one day someone would come who would crush the serpent and fix the mess he had made. This was God's way of saying that even though things were broken, He had a plan to repair them. He wasn't going to let the serpent have the final victory. So why does this ancient story still matter to us today? Because it's our story. It explains why we have an inner battle between what we should do and what we want to do. The story of Adam and Eve sets the stage for everything else that happens in the Bible. It points toward a future where the brokenness can be mended, kicking off the greatest rescue story ever told.